Welcome, everyone, and thanks for joining us today for a new knowledge session. This is our series of professional development workshops to support business owners, nonprofits, and citizens in not only Washington County, but around the Commonwealth. Our friend Sandy Ratliff insisted on using online presentations for new knowledge to reach a global audience, and this is now one of the longest running professional education classes online. My name is Billy Roberts with Locus, and if you're not familiar with us, we are a community development financial institution. We provide lending, investing, and community innovation services. We're happy to partner with the Washington County Chamber of Commerce, Virginia Highlands Small Business Incubator, and the town of Abingdon to present this business and organizational skill development. This program was started in 2014 to support the Washington County Business Challenge competitors and has become one of the oldest running business training programs in Virginia. Today's session is titled Key Marketing Strategies for Small Business and will be recorded for training and educational purposes. And we just want to note that in order to keep the webinar flowing and stay within our 1-hour goal, we'll mute everyone. However, we do want to hear from you. So if you guys want to post your questions in the Q&A section or in the chat, I'll help Chad. I'll help moderate those for Chad and make sure that they get answered throughout. Or Chad may have some interactive stuff. So we'll just move through, follow his lead. So I want to welcome Chad Thompson. He's a marketing professional with a knack for making brands shine. As the marketing and events manager for Visit Abingdon, Virginia, Chad specializes in creating engaging campaigns that put his hometown on the map. When he's not crafting tourism strategies, Chad is busy running The Bookseller, a beloved local used bookstore he co-owns with his wife, Megan. With a passion for storytelling, Chad also offers his expertise as a digital content creator and marketing consultant for hire. From small businesses to big ideas, Chad loves helping entrepreneurs unlock their full potential, always with a good cup of coffee and a touch of creativity. Very nice. I like that. Welcome, Chad, and thank you for spending the time with us today.
Yeah, thank you so much. I've actually switched to water for the day, but I've spent 3 hours drinking coffee, so I'm ready to go. So I'm gonna go ahead and try to share my screen and make sure everybody can see everything. Let's see here.
Let me
get perfect. There we go.
Perfect.
So good morning, everybody. This is going to be key marketing strategies for small business, and so I do a lot of different types of marketing. I guess if you want to go to the next slide, I think this kind of has my little area here. So yeah, I'm a tourism professional by day. I'm a small business marketer by evening, and then also do a lot of other things. So I also assist other small businesses and locations with marketing efforts, whether that's digital marketing, print. I also do content creation. So I do a lot of photo and video. That's my initial background that got me to where I am today. But today I want to talk about a couple of things that I think, watching a lot of other marketing professionals talking, there's some things that they don't necessarily always hit on. So I want to hit on some of those uncommon areas they're not necessarily talking about, or at least offer different viewpoints to maybe get a better understanding. So the first one is understanding your market and what all that is. The fact that branding is not just a logo, digital marketing, some do's and don'ts, content creation that is a must for all small businesses, how to measure those performances, and then I figured we could follow up with some Q&As. But if you do have questions along the way, feel free to leave those in the chat box, because sometimes it's easier to answer those as we're going. So, all right, we can go to the next slide, please. So I've kind of already introduced myself, but I am the marketing events manager for the town of Abingdon. I've been working more exclusively in tourism marketing for about 6 years now. I started off as a freelance content creator and marketer for destinations. So I did a lot of work for the city of Bristol, did some work for Marion, Abingdon before I actually started working here, other businesses and destinations throughout Southwest Virginia and Northeast Tennessee. And then eventually that led me into a more secured role where I worked in regional tourism, doing marketing efforts for a 19-county region of Southwest Virginia, doing photography, videography. I started a podcast and really tried to focus on tourism marketing during the COVID months and years. Also, I'm a co-owner of a small business with my wife, Megan. We own a little bookstore here in Abingdon. There's actually a little bit older picture of it in the top right of the screen there. And then, as I mentioned, I'm a digital content creator that can be for hire for small businesses and destinations. So I guess to really get things kickstarted is understanding your market. So if you don't know who you're marketing to, essentially you're just throwing your marketing efforts off into the dark. And that's kind of what we see here with this slide. Market research is one of the single most important things that you can do, especially if you're a brand new business looking to get started. If you don't know who you're going to cater your marketing efforts to, you're really just wasting a lot of time and resources, because if you're not getting to the right people, you're not going to see that success in marketing that you want to see. So one of my favorite phrases to say to people is when they bring an idea to me about something they're trying to get out there. Like one example, say bluegrass music. If somebody comes to me and says, hey, I have this great idea for this event that revolves around bluegrass, my first response is going to be, I'm not your target market, because it's not really kind of the genre that I like. So what I mean by that is I can help you figure out who your market is, but I'm not that market. So how do we figure that out? So we'll look at that on the next slide. So throughout, I've kind of showcasing examples based on the bookstore of who our market is. And I've kind of updated these here just a little bit, but we know that people that are looking for things that are hip, thrifty ideas, trendy things, that's kind of the types of people that come in. But more specifically, the target market for our bookstore are millennials and Gen Z. 90% of our audience is women, and many of them have families. So that could range from a husband and wife to having at least 1 to 2 kids as well. So that's our target market. And we found that out through a variety of different ways. We did some market research, which I'll show you some places you can go to do that here in just a second. But we've also just kind of learned that by being open and in business, and our target market has kind of shifted based on our branding and a variety of other factors. But on the next slide, I'll show you one thing that is really important and can help you on your marketing processes, and that is creating buyer personas. So I've created a couple of these based on personas that we typically see at our bookstore. So basically what a buyer persona is, you're creating this ideal customer, or in our case, the customer that we see pretty often, and writing about that person, because the more of an understanding you have over who your customers are, the more you know how to cater those marketing needs. Do they receive their marketing digitally? Do they receive it physically? Is it word of mouth? So our first persona here, her name is Sarah Thompson. She's not related to me because she's not real. But she's 45 years old. She's a local teacher. Her income's about $50,000 a year. I know that she's married and has 2 kids between the ages of 12 and 15. And her hobbies and interests, she enjoys reading historical fiction, memoirs, and cookbooks. And she attends cultural events like art shows and local festivals. She spends the weekends exploring nearby nature trails with her family. Also want to know her challenges, which include things like limited free time for leisure activities due to work and family commitments. Her shopping habits, as she prefers browsing in physical bookstores for recommendations and unique finds versus something like Amazon. She participates in book clubs and enjoys buying books for her kids. She's interested in supporting local businesses. And then what attracts her to the bookseller is that she loves intimate and cozy atmosphere of the bookstore, and she's drawn to events like author signings, book clubs, etc. So why all these things are important is because now I know what her hobbies are, what her challenges in life are, what her habits are, and what she likes about us. So what I can do with that is figure out what type of content to create to market to this type of person. So if I know that she enjoys historical fiction, memoirs, and cookbooks, and I also know that historical fiction and memoirs are 2 of the best-selling genres that our bookstore has, I'm going to start marketing more of that to this specific person, saying things like, hey, we got this new selection of historical fiction in. You should come by and check us out. If you're looking for the latest memoir or rare find memoir, we got that in. We've only got 2 copies available. So getting those things out to the people that want that. And then I know that her challenge is limited free time for leisure activities due to work and family. So what can I do with that kind of information? Well, I can offer her a more curated experience when she comes into our shop by determining, what we have. She can send us a message on Facebook or an email saying, hey, do you have such and such book in stock? So we can let her know that information so she doesn't waste valuable time coming to the store if we don't have what she's looking for. A lot of different variety like that goes into that effort. And then we'll look at the next persona on the next slide. And this is basically the same thing that we already looked at, but just a different ideal customer type. So being in Abingdon, we are a tourist destination. So I know that there are tourists coming into my bookstore. So this second persona is the weekend tourist, about the same age range, but this time we chose to look at a slightly different demographic. So instead of being in a family, this is a single person. They like to travel, so they enjoy weekend getaways in small towns. He likes a different genre of books, and we've got different challenges. So he wants to experience local culture and avoid generic tourist spots. What's really cool about that is because our store is located inside of a coffee shop, we are kind of more of that hometown community feel. So we're able to showcase that through our marketing. So when we're able to show that we are a part of the community, not just some kind of tourist spot, then people who are tourists can feel more a part of that community. So by knowing his challenge, that he's not looking for that generic stuff, I can market to him as that we are this cozy hidden gem tucked away in the back of some coffee shop right in the heart of downtown. So when he comes in, he can feel like he fits in. But knowing things like his shopping habits, being a tourist, he wants things like souvenirs and local goods. So because of that, I now know that I can promote some of the items we have in our bookstore, like bookmarks that are made by local crafters. I have art made by local artists. I have local photography. Now I can promote these other small businesses that are within our business to showcase local made goods from around the region, which is something that they're actually looking for. So we'll continue on, and that's essentially it with the personas. But how we find out that information is through things like market research tools. And I've put 3 examples on here today, such as Answer the Public, SEMrush, and then even ChatGPT. So kind of depending on what you're looking for and where you are in your stages of determining who these buyer personas are and who your market audience is, might kind of determine which one of these you would use. So we'll show examples of these here in just a second, but what you're essentially doing, I would recommend starting with Google and saying, what is my target market for XYZ? And you can get like a broad example of whatever your business is. So in my case, a bookstore, I would just search for what is the market or target market for a small used bookstore. So that's going to give me that broad picture. And then I'm going to break that down into my county, the locality, the region I'm in, and find all these little bits and pieces and start putting them together kind of like a puzzle. So if we go to the next slide, we'll get like a screenshot of what Answer the Public looks like. So these are all free and paid services, just depending on how you want to use them. So Answer the Public, you can put in different key phrases that you want to look up and find research on. The bulk of what you're going to really want, eventually you're going to have to pay for, but there are a lot of free things you can do with this and never have to pay a dime. I've never paid for Answer the Public and always found the information that I needed. So in this case, I searched for used bookstore. And what it's going to show me here is kind of the broad look at the United States as a whole. So I can see that the search volume for used bookstore is about 60,500, which, that's a pretty decent range overall. But we can't really scroll down on this slide here. But what it's going to do is break up different keywords and searches that people are looking for. So to give you an idea, our Google business profile, we can see what people are searching for that find us through Google search. And that's kind of some of the things that Answer the Public can do as well. So used bookstore near me, used bookstore Abingdon, Virginia, used books and gifts. That's just a couple of the examples, but you can look in here and pinpoint those phrases and then use those to help see what those terms are that's going to be most effective in your marketing strategy to reach other people. So if we click on the next one, we'll take a look at some of the things that SEMrush does. So SEM stands for basically search engine marketing. And with SEMrush, there's a variety of different things you can do. So there's SEO research, which is search engine optimization, huge. So one of the things that I mentioned earlier that I do is I do professional marketing services for hire. So in order for me to be successful of that, I have to have a website that ranks higher on search results so people find me. When I first decided to do freelance side work on top of what I'm doing for the bookstore and my day job, I built a brand new website and nobody was going to it. And it was because I hadn't properly optimized my website. So I use things like SEMrush, and I get an email every single day that tells me where I rank for certain keywords. So for the marketing, I want to rank as a marketing agency, a photographer, videographer. I want to have keywords like Southwest Virginia, Northeast Tennessee. When I first released my website, I was ranked like 85th for videographer in this region. But now I fluctuate between first and third place. And it's all because I use tools like SEMrush, Answer the Public, and ChatGPT to help me figure out the proper words and phrases to build the content on my website. And you can do that too. And I didn't pay anything for SEMrush. My account is completely free. So all these tools are available at your fingertips for no cost. The only issue is learning how to use them. But then if you don't know how, most of them are pretty easy. There's plenty of people like myself that would be more than happy to tell you how these things work, and at no cost either. So, and then the last one I want to talk about is ChatGPT. This one can get people in trouble. If you look around the internet now, a lot of AI is popping up. I saw some examples this morning of the storms we've been having. People have been generating images of people saving pets and flood images, and none of them are real. And they're getting shared around like crazy. And all it's doing is helping drive the engagement up of these newly created social media pages. So it's kind of an unfortunate event. So that's kind of like the bad realm of AI, but there's a lot of good things as well. And ChatGPT is one of those things where I don't think it should create the content for you, but it is a remarkable resource to help you get ideas and build a foundation. So one example of how I'm currently using ChatGPT in my marketing efforts. 2 years ago, I went to the Scottish Highland Games at Grandfather Mountain, North Carolina, found out that my family originated from Scotland, found out that the Thompsons have a Scottish clan based here in the United States, immediately signed up. And then a year and a half later, get an email from them saying that most of the people are retiring. We need to build and recruit more people because the membership base is suffering. So I don't know a lot about that kind of realm of things. So I created a custom GPT within ChatGPT, told it basically the situation, problems we were facing, and asked it to help me to strategize how we could up recruitment by utilizing social media as a base. So basically what I did was said, hey, you know, the previous social media person for Clan Thompson wasn't getting the most engagement and really getting more membership results out of that. So what it helped me do was to create a 2-month social media plan and gave me ideas of things to post about, because again, this is something new to me. So I don't understand the realm of Scottish clans as in depth as I do, say, tourism marketing. So what it suggested was that maybe some days I talk about history, some days I talk about the culture and the food, and it broke down and gave me ideas of what to post about. So then I could take those ideas that ChatGPT gave me in this kind of table structured format and then go research those on my own to figure out what that content should be. So if you're going to dive into the world of ChatGPT, which is both a free and a paid resource, it's all about what you want to get out of it. It's great for ideas and to act as a shoulder to lean on, but I wouldn't use it per se to necessarily create my end product. I see a lot of businesses now that are using ChatGPT, writing their copy for social media, their blogs and website. And that's a huge no-no, because especially if you're using it to write your website information, Google is starting to track that. And when we were talking about SEO, Google will actually dock websites that are using AI generated wording versus human written wording for various reasons. So use it to get an idea, but not to create the content. We'll move on to the next one. So we'll talk about building the brand. So once you know who your audience is, you know who you're going to market to, you've got to figure out how to market to them. So after we did our initial market research of who our market was, we learned that the core market was going to be women, millennials and Gen Z, that they're conscious, they're fiscally conscious shoppers. They like sustainability. They like a more green environment. We determined, okay, what does that look like visually? So we came up with this logo using the purples and golds and the greens. And you'll notice that we use those colors all throughout. So even in our storefront, you'll see that some of our walls are green, our candles are purple, and you'll see those kind of gold colors in some of the frames in the decor throughout the bookstore. And one thing I like to tell everybody is your brand is not your logo. That is one key element of what a brand is, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But your brand is the vision and voice that you project to your audience. So we'll hop to the next slide and kind of break some of those things down. So branding is your messaging. It's your tone and voice. It's the image that you put out there. It's your values, your story, your audience. There's a lot of things that make up branding. But let's talk about messaging, for example. If you're familiar with Wendy's marketing, especially over the past probably 5 to 10 years, you'll notice that Wendy's gets pretty aggressive with some of their customers, but it's in a fun and playful way that people enjoy. So if you've ever heard of the term roasting, it's essentially, if you're not familiar, where somebody will voluntarily be subjected to being made fun of, basically. And Wendy's does that as a part of their marketing, and it works tremendously. The National Park Service is one of my favorite brands in the entire country, and they use humor in their messaging a lot of times. Like they put out this like prophet-like message to really kickstart this kind of new tone and voice they were doing about a year or two ago. And they said, to be somewhere away from people is to go somewhere where no people are at, or something to that extent. But they put out these funny, quirky things to get your attention. And then when they get your attention, because the ridiculous thing they start off the message with, then that's when they provide you with the bread and butter. Maybe it's talking about the isolation of the forest and how you should be safe when you're out traveling alone. Maybe that was the key that they were trying to get across, but they hooked you in with something that was kind of humorous to start with. And it's also your tone and voice. You know, how are you projecting things out there? Are you doing things in more of a caring way? Are you being humorous? Are you being professional and straightforward? We're learning a lot about that in the tourism industry right now with the crisis management from the hurricane destruction that came through. You know, my wife was telling me that she actually has been unfollowing a lot of businesses that she's enjoyed for many years because of how they are currently marketing to people right now. You know, are they being carefree and welcoming people in to help them from the horrible things that have happened? Or are they just going back to business as usual and just saying, hey, come in and let's party? So that's something very important to her psychology. And we've even thought about that from the bookstore standpoint. We got in a ton of new products over the weekend when all the storm had already happened, and we haven't made the first post promoting those things. They're available, but that's not our main concern right now. Our tone and our messaging that we want to project to the community is, we're a place that you can come and reset, recharge, we have electricity, we have Wi-Fi. If you need a break, that's what we've really been trying to push out, because that ties into our values. And our values are to build community, build a support system for people that are into literacy and want that place for connection and support and safety. And that all comes from my wife's story, because that's what we seek out when we're going to look for little places like this. So we wanted to create a business that revolved around a similar story to our own, and to tell our stories, what it is that we love about literacy and how those things have been very important to our life. And then that all resonates well with the audience that we've already connected with. So in a nutshell, that's all the different areas of branding. So it's not just a fancy logo that you stick on a bunch of things and then people are like, oh, that's cool. Because people are going to remember the experience. They're going to remember the emotions they felt. And that's the real core of branding. And I've got a little exercise coming up that I think is going to be really fun, that we can see just that branding isn't just about one thing or another. So we'll hop to the next slide. Okay. So I guess this is kind of a takeoff of a show I watched growing up. Whose Line Is It Anyway? So whose branding is it anyway? And feel free to leave your answers in the comment section below. But the first one is, you deserve a break today. Now, these aren't necessarily the current branding taglines of these big companies, but these four are major companies that you hear about or probably see or use in some way, shape, or form every single day. But if you know in the comments in the chat, you deserve a break today. And Gene says, Wendy's years ago, where's the beef? That's a great example. I actually was going to include where's the beef, but I thought people would get it super easily. So number one, you're saying McDonald's. Okay. And then we'll reveal all the answers when we get to the end. So Billy says Kit Kat. That's a good one. Tiffany says Kit Kat as well. Okay. So number two, where do you want to go today? That's an interesting one as well. I know me, when I first saw where do you want to go today, I immediately thought of a car company. Number three is impossible is nothing. And then finally, number four, the ultimate driving machine. So if you want to throw those into the chat, feel free. I'll give you just a second, and then we'll go to the next slide, which is going to reveal just the logos of these companies. And I guarantee you, as soon as you see the logos, you're going to immediately know every single company, and then we're going to talk about why that is. Okay. Number four, Lincoln. Number two, we're saying American Express. That's a good one. Okay, so here's the official answers. Let's go to the next slide.
Okay.
Here we are. So McDonald's, Windows, Adidas, and BMW. That was our four answers here. So it was interesting. I was at the Southeast Tourism Society Marketing College in Macon, Georgia this summer. And one of the presenters did something very similar to this. And what he brought up was, to all of us tourism professionals, was to think about iconic destinations. So number one was Savannah, Georgia. And he asked 100 and some of us tourism people in the room, what's Savannah, Georgia's logo? Nobody knew. So then he said, what's Savannah, Georgia's tagline? Nobody knew that either. And they're like, then he's like, what do you know about Savannah, Georgia? So the immediate answer was, oh, they have ghost tours. They've got those cool trees. They've got a lot of history. They've got good food and all these things that made us realize that your logo really doesn't matter in all cases. Your tagline doesn't really matter, but the experiences that you can give people is the biggest marketing, because those leave lasting impressions. That's what people talk about. The reason that we know what McDonald's, Windows, Adidas, and BMW's logos look like is because they've spent millions and billions of dollars to stick them in front of our faces. And us all being small businesses, of course, we don't have that. Now, locally, our logos can eventually become recognized. But in the broader sense of things, we will most likely never have the budgets to be as recognizable as these massive brands. So that was just a fun little exercise to let you know that logo and tagline, they're an important aspect to your brand, but they're not the most important. So we'll just move on to the next one. So to kind of wrap up, we'll talk about digital marketing a little bit. I think this is going to be the biggest thing for all small businesses. And these percentages aren't necessarily saying all these things are created equal. They are, but they aren't. But you should always be utilizing social media, email marketing, thinking about your SEO and Google search, having a website out there, and doing advertising. Whether that's social media, Google, placement ads, or any other type of digital advertising, all these are key elements. I will give you a breakdown of how we do things at the bookstore. So social media, we do that weekly. We try to target people 2 to 3 times a week, depending on what we have going on. All of our events go on there, and I'll have a great case study about that in just a second. Email marketing happens about 1 to 2 times a month. And I will tell you right now, if you have not started an email marketing strategy, you've got to do it. And there's a few reasons why. In the locality I am in, I know of 2 attractions over the past couple of years where their social media accounts were hacked and they lost tens of thousands of followers that they built up over time and had to start brand new social media pages. And they have not got even close to what they once had as far as their engagement and their follower counts. Email, that is way less likely to happen, that you're going to lose your email database. So it's a great place to have a good backup. But the other great thing is you're going straight to your customer. No, you're not having to compete with other businesses and pages and scrolling on social media. You're getting straight to their inbox, which is remarkable. A website is a great thing because not everybody has social media. It's a great place for you to update things. You can incorporate e-commerce. At the bookstore, that's where we sell tickets to our events because, again, not all of our audience is on Facebook. Not all of them are on TikTok or Instagram. And then advertising, we don't do a ton of paid advertising, but sometimes it is important. Grand openings are huge times to do it. If you have an event that's not performing very well and you want to boost that up, you can do that as well. But you don't always have to put money behind your events to make them successful. So we'll hop over to the next slide. I think this starts our case study. Yeah. So recently, my wife and I decided to host an adult book fair. And contrary to some ideals, this was a book fair, just like the Scholastic book fair we had as a kid. But it was just catered to us adults, us older millennials that wanted to feel young again, that felt like we didn't have arthritis and our bones have started hurting, but we were just young little kids in the 90s going to check out cool books and pens and pencils. I spent no money at all promoting this event, and we'll go to the next slide. All I did was create an event on Facebook. And I screenshotted this after the event happened, but we had 188 people say that they were going to go to the event, 2.8 thousand people saying they were interested. All I did was post this event to Facebook, and that's it. I didn't share it. I didn't put ads behind it. But what I did do was create messaging that resonated well with the right target audience. I hit the things they were looking for. They were looking for an experience, not necessarily just to go shopping, but they wanted to relive a moment in their childhood. So we use terminology like that. Come out and relive your childhood, but this time you can do it with alcohol. We're going to play 90s music. We're going to have all the things you remember as a kid. So we had the Goosebumps books. We had the cool clicky pens that can do 5 different colors. We had all that stuff. So a good rule of thumb is when people are going to say they're coming to your event, the going section, about 20% of those people are going to actually show up. And of interested, about 10% show up. We had somewhere between 435 and 500 people show up to this event. And if you click on the next slide, we had a line going down the street. We took up parking spots for what I understand about 3 to 4 city blocks. including the street we were on. People literally stood in line for 60+ minutes just to go through the book fair and check out. And there probably were some complaints, but we never heard them because we provided something and hit a sweet spot for our target market. And every single person that came fit within one of the 2 buyer personas that I shared with you earlier. Most of these are, I mean, the majority were women that came, but there were a lot of men that came as well. Everybody fit within the age range and all the demographics that we have built our core market to and have been marketing to for the 1.5 years that we've been open. This was the most successful day of business that we ever had. And I think it was all because all the elements aligned very well. So the reason I bring this case study up is because good marketing, even without money, can go a very long way. So we'll go to the next slide. And real briefly, I'll just hit on this. Content creation is huge. No size fits all. Flyers don't work, and done is better than perfect. So what I mean by that is there's 3 key elements that really connect with people the most: photos, videos, and words. You have about 2 seconds to capture somebody's attention when they're scrolling social media. If you're not hooking somebody in those first couple of seconds, either from a compelling video with a hook or a photo that they just get drawn into that stops the scroll, they're going to keep going. So how do you do that? What kind of photos are going to stop the scroll? People really love stories. So instead of just saying, hey, here's a new handbag we got, come buy it from us. Typically for us, when we make a social media post that we have new products, we'll photograph the product in a fun way, typically with somebody else in the frame engaging with the product, or maybe it's just a hand in some way, shape, or form. But we always tell the story. Who made that? So our reusable bags in the bookstore are made by another small business. So we tell that small business's story. We connect with people on that emotional level, and that's where we use the words. So adding things like words and photos or words and videos is a fantastic thing to do. And one thing I see a lot of small businesses doing wrong is they'll simply just put a flyer on Facebook, maybe put in a sentence or 2, and that's it. And the engagement drops dramatically because people don't really engage well with graphics as much as they do photos and videos. So that's a huge thing to think about. And then we'll go to the next ones. I know we're running a little bit short on time. The most important thing you can do with all this that we've talked about today is measure your performance. And there's various ways to do that. You can look at your search rankings, like I talked about on SEMrush. I get an email every day telling me where I'm ranking in search for all these keywords. If I notice I'm dropping quite a bit, I can go and correct those things and then see how I'm doing in another day or 2. Your email statistics, when you send out this email to your list, how many people are clicking on that email? And then once they open the email, are they doing anything with it? Are they going to your website? Are they buying products? Are they replying back? Are they unsubscribing? And if you find that people are opening the email, but they're not really doing any actions, try to figure out why that might be and correct it before you send out the next one. Your social media insights are huge. So if you're not big into Meta Business Suite or know a lot about insights to see who your target audience is, if it's male or female, what age ranges they are, where they're from, YouTube is a great resource to learn a lot of those basic things, but they can tell you a lot of information. One of the important reasons to have a website online is so you have Google Analytics. Analytics does a crazy deep dive into about anything you could want to know about your customers, where they're from, how much money they got, what their education level is, are they a family, are they not? So much details and information there. It's a little bit more of a learning curve, but again, YouTube's a great free resource to learn about that. And finally, my business profile. If you have a physical location or you have a service-based business, having a My Google business profile, it's free, is very crucial. It's a way for you to rank above your competitors. It's a way to find out more information about what your customers are looking for. And Google and YouTube are the 2 biggest search engines in the world. TikTok is moving up very quickly as well. But typically, if people are traveling to a destination, they're going to go to Google and search blank near me. So in our case, it's bookstore near me. Our competition is Books A Million and a couple other bookstores kind of stretching out, but we win that keyword battle every single day because I make sure to include those things on my website, including keywords like Abingdon, Southwest Virginia, all the things that people are searching for, which you can find out from SEMrush and ChatGPT and a lot of other variety of sources can help you to know what to say to reach the right people. And then I guess we'll move on to the next one. And yeah, I wanted to leave us a little bit of time just to, if there's any questions about these different areas of marketing, or any suggestions you might want me to throw out there. Kathy has to have a question. Unless she's just snuck away.
I did not sneak away. I will tell you that the whole time you were talking, I was thinking about somebody that I know that has a great business and isn't getting a lot of reaction. And I'm going to send your video to them. You know, I think you're right about knowing your market. You're also right about, I mean, I don't have any questions because I agree with you. You know, you touched on what people want. They don't want to be issued up all the time. They don't want to see, you know, negativity.
Yeah.
On some, and I guess this is a comment, but if you've got a personal Facebook page where you're being negative and political all the time, that's going to turn off any potential customer that doesn't agree with you.
Yeah, that's huge.
Especially in a small town.
Yeah, and I'll say too that that's something that I thought about putting in this conversation is business reviews, whether that's on social media or Google or where have you. You know, we hear the customer's always right, and we know that's not true. But in the world of business, it is true. So the bookstore, we actually received our first ever negative review from somebody that was from many miles away that had come into the area, wanted to see the bookstore, and they gave us a 2 out of 5 stars on Google and said we were too small. And at first it's kind of disheartening to get one of those comments, but we get hundreds of comments of people that love us because of the size we are. They don't want it to be bigger. They want it to be this niche little, this nook, this little cozy place. That's what they like. So what we learned from that comment is to not take offense to it. She's just not our target market. That's all that means. So instead of replying back real harshly and saying, oh, you're wrong and horrible, which I see lots of businesses getting very defensive towards patrons, we just said, you know, we appreciate your feedback. Thanks so much for stopping by. You know, we're still relatively new. We are looking to grow and expand. But right now we're just enjoying bringing the gift of literacy to our community. Something to that extent. So, but I have seen businesses get real defensive and use strong language and get hostile towards some of these commenters. And I understand one thing I've learned too, never respond to something in the moment. You got to give yourself time to calm down and be rational and just own and accept it, even if you're wrong, because when people are looking at reviews, I can tell when people are leaving a ridiculous review on a business and just be like, okay, well, that's a one-off situation. But then when I see the business owner going and retaliating against this person, I'm like, oh, maybe the reviewer was right. So yeah, and the same deal applies. Having a personal Facebook page, you can turn people off to your business if you're saying the wrong things.
Right. And you know, the rest of that story is if somebody's out there saying something negative about your business, the more you perpetuate that, the longer it goes on. And so, you know, I learned this during the tumultuous years of the Food City development on the town council was that every time somebody said something negative, I just put a factual piece of information, you know, that didn't really like it didn't respond to anybody, I would just say, did you know that?
Mhm.
In, you know, in developing so and so, you know, this opportunity. So I never ever respond to negativity. I think it's awful. You give people more publicity. You give the very
Yeah.
people who are saying negative stuff more publicity.
Oh, 100%. There's a lot of things throughout the years, whether it's books or bands or albums that have come out that have gotten a lot of negative publicity. And then I'm like, okay, well, now I'm curious. I got to see what this is all about. And
Right.
now I own those albums and those books and follow these artists and these authors because if somebody else was saying, don't go listen to it. The first thing I want to do is do go listen to it.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
frankly, you know, you call attention to people that, you know, don't like your product. What you really, you know, in situations like that, you need to get a customer that does I think you're great 1 minute video.
Yeah. Yeah. And it looks like Gene in the comments said, I think the hardest thing when you're posting via Facebook or MailChimp is to come up with witty words that make people like, share, or open the message. And that is true. And sometimes, you know, it's hard. I'll give you a recent example of a success that I had. I'm going to pull up my YouTube channel. So my YouTube channel's kind of been all over the place here as of lately. Not really sure what direction I'm wanting to go. But I took a journaling class at the bookstore 2 or 3 months ago and learned something new about journaling that just clicked with me. Well, I made a video on that. And literally the title of the video was Journaling Didn't Work for Me Until I Learned or I Was Told This. And so I made a 6-minute video talking about what I learned.
Yeah.
It's had nearly 15,000 views.
Right.
The video I put out before that got 40 views. So basically what I learned from that is people really want to know what that thing was that I was told. So I've doubled down on it and made another journaling video to kind of go off that. So basically what I'm getting at is sometimes it's a trial and error, figuring out what to say and how to say it. But when you find that thing that clicks with people and resonates, try to start replicating that. So for me, I'm testing the waters now. I put out a new video today is don't let this one mistake ruin your journaling experience. It doesn't quite have the momentum that the last video got, but it does take some time to do that. And if it doesn't work, then I'll just move on to the next thing. So yeah, sometimes it's difficult and you can use things like ChatGPT to help you. You could say, hey, I run this kind of social media page. I'm not really getting that kind of engagement that I want to see. Here's kind of the people that follow my page and what their background is. Can you help me think of some terminology or wording or how my tone and messaging might better reflect in higher engagement with those people? And it'll give you a list of however many things you ask for, and then just tweak some of those to make them more human and more your own, and just see if that works. And if it don't, then you just go back to the drawing board.
Right. You know.
Sorry, Kathy.
That's all right.
I had read or watched something about some advertising, and it was like, keep in mind the way people Google search, right? Like, I think we all have our own cadence about how we Google search things, you know, and it's usually exactly what's in our head. I think maybe with your journaling YouTube video, right? Like your title was something that I would like put down in a Google search, like out of my head. So maybe that contributed to it. But I have a quick question. When you're talking about promoting or advertising on like Facebook or any other social media platform, do you have a suggestion about how much money to spend or creating a budget that way?
Yeah, so it kind of varies. It depends on more so what you're doing, but I've seen success as little as $15 to $20 and as high as $250. But I've seen it's kind of going to depend on you, what your sweet spot becomes. So like the bookstore, if I do advertise something, typically $15 to $25 is all that I spend. But we really don't do a lot of paid advertising. More so if like if we're going to have an author signing and we really want to make sure that we're getting that information out to all the right people, we'll do that. But, you know, if we're having like the book fair event, I spent no ad dollars on that and saw the biggest successful event that we've had since we've been open. But now our grand opening, I did spend $25, I believe, in ad dollars, letting people know. But at that time we were brand new and we needed to connect with our audience. But one thing you can also do is we don't really have any competitors to do this to, because Books A Million, I mean, that's a whole different ballgame than us. But let's say there was another small bookstore in town, or let's say you're an auto repair shop. One thing that might be wise for you to do is to find some of your highest competing auto repair shops and do advertising to their audience, because you might catch people that are either, maybe they can't get in with their current body shop. Maybe they're upset with that body shop, or maybe they're just looking to explore more options, or you offer services that the other shop doesn't. You can advertise to their audience and then start getting their customers. You can do lookalike audiences and advertise to customers that are not currently your audience, but have all the same traits as your current audience. So there's all kinds of different things to do. And if you're not as well versed in social media advertising, I probably would recommend reaching out to somebody that does specialize in it and either learning the ropes or just paying them to do it, because you'll see better results. But if you're just playing around with like 10 to 20 bucks, I mean, that's a pretty safe thing to try out yourself. And again, I would probably just revert you to YouTube if you just really want to do it on your own.
Give me just 1 second. We'd like to thank Chad for his time today and sharing your expertise with us this afternoon. Also, thanks to each of you for joining us today and for taking time out of your busy schedules to participate and learn more about the value of having a strong marketing strategy for your business. We will have a list of the upcoming new knowledge sessions scheduled at the Virginia Highlands Small Business Incubator website and the Facebook page. Our next new knowledge will be on Wednesday, October 16th, and it will focus on using AI to create social media content. Today's session has been recorded and will be available to view on the Facebook page, and I think Jean will send it out to you guys, the recording and the other information. And we hope you all can join us for our next session. It was on October 16th, so not next week, but the week after. And please share with someone that could benefit from this session. Thanks again, Chad. Really enjoyed your presentation today.
Yeah, thank y'all for having me.
All right. I'm going to post that website over in the chat for whoever wants to sign up for the next session. And we appreciate you guys. Jean?
Yeah, I'll be editing the video, and it'll probably go out tomorrow to everybody that's registered, along with Chad's presentation. And so you'll have an opportunity to review that again, because he gave us so much information, good information, that it's worth re-reviewing. Thanks again, Chad.
Yeah, thank you all so much.
Thanks. Have a great day, guys.
Thanks, y'all
Bye.
too.